What kind of sex do you have? One of the hardest things I ever had to do when I began to heal my sexuality after my rapes was to take a long look at the way I was having sex. I had to come to terms with the fact that in order for me to feel my arousal or have an orgasm with myself or with a partner, oftentimes I had to mentally loop repeating images of my trauma or images of pornography or erotica that matched the type of trauma I endured. As a result of my abuse, my body had created a traumatic pathway to arousal. Let's see. Because and I quickly became addicted to the brain chemicals, which are oxytocin, prolactin, and the endorphins, acetylcholine, and dopamine that accompany orgasm, even though during this time I was intensely ashamed of what I was doing, and my abuser was becoming more and more controlling of my whole life, not just the sex we were having. I was so in awe of his persona and control, as well as being at an age disadvantage, that I did not realize how much trouble I was in and how isolated I was until I was eyeballs deep in the sexual soup and barely had any voice or identity of my own left to use. I was relating to my own life as the sexual slave of another, much like a heroin addict becomes the slave to the syringe and the spoon. And the pusher, I might add. It took a lot of time, a lot of practice, and a big sexual timeout at first to break through this traumatic arousal pattern. I also needed help and support from trusted others to do it successfully. Many years later, I can now use the fantasies I choose that involve healthy image and no power exchange. Not that there's anything wrong with power exchange when it's practiced in a consensual, non-traumatic way. I can also choose whether to have a fantasy or not as part of my arousal. So then I tell a little bit more about my story, and then I turn it to the reader and say, what kind of sex are you having? And we breathe a lot. And you can even, you can look at your response to a question like that. So if somebody asks you, what kind of sex is it that you're having? And then, do you feel defensive? Do you feel indignant? Do you feel embarrassed, neutral, excited, or content? Did you have a strong internal dialogue cropping up? If so, that's usually a big highway billboard telling you that you might have some sexual inquiry in your future. Better to call yourself out and be done with it. Then you can get down to the business of acceptance and slowly change if that's what you truly want. And then finally, and I'll stop after this paragraph, does the sex you now have ever include shame, anxiety, expectation of yourself or a partner, fear, stress, dissociation, which means leaving your body, dread, pain, especially in your sexual body parts, obligation, disgust, anger, revenge, a feeling of control or power over yourself or your partner, pornography, traumatic memories, intrusive images, or being asked to do things you don't want to do, but you don't feel like you can say no. Those emotions and symptoms are internal red flags telling you that something is not right.